Okay, I saw the thing that said got it. Thank you. Thank you to Sue for asking me. One of the blessings of COVID has been meeting people in Zoom meetings. And so we had met in Zoom. I am on the East Coast outside of Annapolis, Maryland. And you gave us your nice weather today. It's 72 degrees in Maryland in March. It's lovely. Um, but, um, so, the traditional how I got here and what happened. I became familiar with 12-step programs in the early to mid 1980s. When I was in graduate school, one of my classmates worked on me for a year to get me to come to a meeting in another fellowship. So that is how I started there. I had heard about DA a little bit. Again, this is the 80s, so I do not recall exactly when DA started, but I was 23 at the time. We were in graduate school. I came out of graduate school in 86 and started, getting a steady income at that point. But money is one of multiple addictions. It's sort of my middle of the road one. And even the middle of that road is rocky and full of potholes and just a gigantic mess. So I had quite a bit of success in other programs, but I really did not want to look at the money. Money was too scary. I'm the oldest of seven, and my father's gone. My mother's 85, and they were insistent that we go to religious schools. This is not a complaint on my part. I liked the religious schools just fine. But, when you're trying to put 7 children through religious schools, there's just not a lot of money. And they had met in law school way back. And so money was always unclear what was going to come into the house, because they were independent. And I was determined, no, I wasn't doing that. Even though I got the same education they did, I was not going to do that. I wanted a steady paycheck. One of my brothers calls me risk averse, and I define it as I am out there in the middle of that lake, in the leaky rowboat, and people will say, well, if you just jump out and swim to shore, it's going to be okay. No, I just need more buckets. I can keep this leaky boat afloat if you will just give me more buckets. And way too scared to jump out into the water. Time went on. I met my husband, my now husband of close to 32 years, in 12 steps in a different program. And we married, we had children. Our children are 25 and 30 now. And I kept working. I've been with the same company almost 35 years. And there was just never enough money. Never, ever enough money. Oh, well, I don't have enough money to pay daycare, so let me run $1,000 off the credit card. Let me do that. That was a favorite thing. And I sort of wandered in and out of programs, because I just disease. I'm just too busy. I just need to do this. I just need to do that. Anytime I start a sentence, it's bad news. So just about this time, 6 years ago, my spouse and I both came back to programs, to our primary, and I started working with a sponsor. And as we were going through steps 1, 2, and 3, sponsors like, this money thing is a big thing for you, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, yes, and and shame, oh, so much shame. Because I could look at people who were making less than I was in my company and thinking, well, how are they managing? They're doing fine. Or I could look at grad school classmates of mine. Oh, well, if only I'd been smart enough to get those types of jobs, or anything, I could be making, double whatever it is that I'm making. But the food, the money used to send me into a fetal curl. just, curled up on my bed. And there was something in this nice pamphlet here. So it said something about DA literature. So this is the one, the 12 Promises of Debtors Anonymous, but a lot of us know these promises. And so we know those, but this is a little bit more verbiage. And there's this one, Promise 7. We will recognize that there is enough. Our resources will be generous, and we will share them with others and with DA. And so there's this one paragraph. It says, some of us were convinced that we would never have the earning power to become financially secure on our own. So we may have looked for someone else to provide it for us. We had dreams of winning the lottery, gaining an inheritance, or marrying someone wealthy. While living in fantasy, we may have ignored our tax obligations, used credit and charge cards, or incurred student loan debt instead. And I like the fantasy thing. I mean, I haven't ignored my tax obligations yet. You never know what could happen. But the credit and charge cards and the student loan debt, yeah, a lot of that, whole lot of that. I knew that if my husband bought a lottery ticket, I know that the laws of the state of Maryland say, unless we have a signed separation agreement in place at the time of the purchase, I get half. There's no longer any lottery tickets, but I would lie on my bed, and it's always feels like my safe place, and just tell myself millions and millions and millions of dollars. We're going to win millions and millions and millions of dollars. FYI, there is no longer any lottery ticket buying here in our household. So this sponsor that I had, she was and is in both of the programs. And she said to me, I really think you should come to DA. And, it's now the time of the internet, so I can look up all DA. And I'm like, nope. I'm going to fail. I don't like failing. It's just not going to happen. I'm not doing it. You can't make me. And I joke around that my hair's so short because she dragged me in. But at about 18 months recovery in the other program, I was just like, I have to. Even if I fail, I've got to do something. We were almost $90,000 in credit card debt. We had no savings. We did have, mercifully, 401k and an IRA, but, couldn't touch those without ramifications. So I was lucky. My sponsor was very smart, because this is in 17. So it's in the before times, and there were only 2 meetings in our local area. And I said, well, I can't make it to either one, because one was when the home group was for one thing, and the other I had a personality conflict. And she was smart. She said, all right, why don't you start just keeping your numbers? And so I said, okay, but what about my husband? Because she knew him too. And she said, well, he'll do it, he'll write down. So I started writing down our numbers. And at the end of about a month, she said, now I need you to get all the credit cards and write down the minimum payment, the APR, someone can't remember the phrase for it, and how much is left. And I said, no, I will die. The top of my head will explode, and I will die. Well, I did not die. It was pretty horrifying, but I didn't die. And it came out that we were spending like $2,200 a month just to make the minimum payments, and trust me, we don't make a whole lot. I mean, we make decent money. We absolutely do. But by the time you pay for the benefits and everything else. So I did that. And then at that point, I said, I think I need to go to a meeting. I'll let that home group thing go. I'll switch my home group to somewhere else. And I walked in, and a lovely woman who is now my other sponsor was talking about a relative who had died, and there was no money left. It was completely unexpected in her life. And, he had died unexpectedly. There was no money left. And I thought, oh my God, that's what's going to happen to me. I'm going to die, and my family's going to find out, this house of cards that I've built, we can't pay this because that'll make it overdue, because I've still got money if there's an amount left on the credit card balance, right? Is that what everybody does? At least that's the way I thought it was. So I thought, all right, well, I better stick around. And we came to doing our first pressure relief group. For anybody who's new, that is when the debtor sits down with at least two other people. You got to have at least two, because otherwise things can get a little weird just one-on-one. So with two, you get two different opinions. So the sponsor, one I call She Who Must Be Obeyed, and yes, she knows I call her that. She said, okay, well, Kurt has to come too. It's my husband. I said, okay. And he knew the people that were there because they were also in our other programs. Very incestuous here in Annapolis in terms of programs. And so we went in, and I had the plan and everything, and that worked out pretty well. And so within a week, our heat pump died. Losing a heat pump in January in Maryland is not a good plan. And our son had an accident that totaled our car. It wasn't his fault, but still the car was gone. I mean, frankly, the car was what we call a rolling total. You could have sneezed on it and it would have been total, but it was paid for, and it worked. And I thought, oh my Lord, what is going to happen? And I 100% believe in God, higher power, him, her, it, whatever you want to call it. I was raised in the very hippy dippy 60s, and God is love and love is God. And I still believe in all that. And I thought, God cares about my other programs. God cares that I do not put into myself stuff that should not be going into me. But God is not going to take care of the money, the whole render unto Caesar bit. And within that week, my company, who has never done this before and never done it since, said, you know what? We got a big tax break, because that's when the tax code had gotten changed. This is January of 18. We're just going to give you guys money. I was like, wow, okay. I don't know about that. But all right. We got the heat pump replaced without incurring unsecured debt. And unsecured is that which is secured a lot of times by a house or a car. We were able to do that. And it was funny, I'm talking with the same sponsor on the phone, and I said, well, the guys come in to do the estimate tomorrow, and then we'll get the heat pump replaced. And she said, oh, no, that's not the DA way. And I'm like, excuse me. And she said, no, we try to get 3 estimates. And if I could have jumped down the phone line, I think I would have wrapped it around a neck, because I'm like, it's cold. It is cold in my house. And we did get 3 estimates, and I learned the lovely phrase of saying to people, thank you, that's very nice. We're getting 3 estimates, and we'll be back in touch after we discuss with our financial consultants, which is usually other DA members, you understand. And we did that, and all of a sudden the price of the heat pump started going down. The thing that was going to cost us $7,000 was now at $5,800, because they were competing with each other. So I was given the gift of desperation when I came in. The second greatest gift that I had was that my husband followed me right on in. And we work this program separately and together. We go to our home group, which is, it's 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday mornings. But if you're up early, it's the Breaking Free meeting out of Annapolis, Maryland. Met wonderful people, people who are very close with us, close with our children. Our children inherited other things from us, but not the money thing. They're really good with money. I don't know where they got it, because it surely was not from me. But they sort of follow their own spending plans and have their own little PRGs. It works well. As far as the money goes, the debt is paid off. The only debts that we have right now are, let's see, the house, which is of course secured. We've been able to refi twice since, and the first time, sponsor suggested, why don't you try, because we were at like 5.5% with a HELOC. with a home equity line of credit, which was variable, not so good. And it was hard. And I would call her and I would say, it's too hard. I can't do it. I want to stop. And she said, no, you keep going until they say no. Thank you, Casey. I see my 5 minutes. You keep going till they say no. And they never said no. I mean, it wasn't easy. It felt uncomfortable, but that brought us to 4 something. And then I think about a year and a half ago, the rates had gone down again. And so we're now at 2 something for a 15-year. We're 60. I'm 60. My husband's 61. I doubt it will be paid off before we retire. But we've gone from a 30-year with a 10-year HELOC at some horrific rate, now down to something more reasonable. The other debt is the Parent Plus loans that are in my name for our son. And he pays them, and I know he pays them because I set up the payments. We can also, contribute some towards them because we had more money for our daughter. So we wrote everything all down and showed it to both of our children and said, here, Katie got more from us. She's the oldest. You got less. We'd like to pay you back. And this is how we want to do it. So it's $400 a month. I am utterly transparent with my spending. There is nothing I spend that either my husband or somebody in DA doesn't know about. If it's, for example, if it's gifts for him, I will get in touch with a sponsor or somebody else and say, I'm planning on spending this. What do you think? And lest anybody think that, we have been living, on ramen for the last 4.5 years. We have not. We have a prudent reserve now of $25,000, which we figure is enough to pay for 6 months if one of us loses our jobs. We have other money that is set apart. We have spending plan, that we adhere to. And if there's going to be any changes, we talk with our pressure relief group who this works out real nicely for us. They're another husband and wife couple. So it's nice to talk the 4 of us, because I have feelings and my husband does. And so on with our food plan, the first 6 months, I would get so mad. You're eating more of the food because you're taller and I'm not getting to eat more of the food because I'm smaller and you get to spend more money and it's not fair. There's a lot of it's not fair that likes to run around in my head. But we are utterly transparent with our children, in showing them what goes on. And I love it said in one of these here, oh, I need to keep a credit card for an emergency, right? So we have one line of credit, one credit card that is open. Nothing, it's at 0, 0. It's been at 0, 0 since August of 20. And it says on the front, do not use this card without speaking with DA sponsor. And then on the back, it has our account passwords and stuff, because our children will know where to find that if something happens to us, And so I said to the same sponsor, I said, what about a credit card? And she said, well, you can only use it in case of emergency. And I said, okay, could you define emergency for me? And she says, yeah, one of you died and the other one of you has to bury that person. Alrighty then. So that's, that's how we do with the credit card. With our prudent reserve, for anybody new, that's what some people call savings account. We don't touch it unless somebody else knows about it. And it's got to be somebody other than us, because I will talk me and my husband into things. It's going to say on my tombstone, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but we don't touch it. 1 minute. Thank you, Casey. I'll finish up. This is all through God. This is not through me. Okay, I couldn't do this. I heard about DA in my 20s and I ran like hell. I wish I'd stayed. I didn't, but I'm so grateful each and every day for this program. I have seen miracles in all kinds of programs, but I've never seen anything like happens in this program. And I hope to be here the rest of my life. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so